Qualifying has been decided for the Rolex 24 Hours in 2024. It's time to welcome you back as we get ready for 4 practice sessions before the green flag flies on Saturday for the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Hello everybody and welcome to the 3rd practice session for the Rolex 24 Hours in 2024. We've had 2 practice sessions today. They've all gone really well. No drama, no red flags. Now it's time for the final practice today before we get a session tomorrow. Now it's 1 hour 30 on the clock as we get ready to get going. Let's pass over, getting ready with IMSA Radio as they'll bring us through. Here it comes in.
Live from trackside, this is IMSA Radio.
It's the 3rd practice session, and let's cross over to John, who's trackside in Daytona, to bring us all of the action from the 3rd practice session. John. Well, we should be experiencing, I think, just a loss of commentary at the moment from trackside, the final session of the day.
Good evening, everybody,
Here we go.
and welcome to what is termed IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, a practice 3. I'm calling it night practice because that's what it is. There's 1 hour and 30 minutes on the clock. The full team's here. We're ready to go, and it's all live from here at Daytona.
The WeatherTech Sports Car Championship
straight away for
on
Shane
IMSA
Adam
Radio.
to bring us up to date with everything that's happening down there. A pretty full pit lane. We've just had the movie crew filming Brad Pitt drinking out of his drinks bottle 15 times. I'm so glad I'm not in the movies. Shea, good evening.
Good evening, John, and good evening to the Kelly Moss with Riley crew, because I've wandered down to their region of the pit box. They've got the LMP3 car, but they've also got the GT3 Porsche. And Trent Hinman, we knew that you were going to be with Kelly Moss with Riley in some form or fashion at Daytona. We just didn't know it was going to be in the Buda car. But this car now has a little bit of the car that you tested at Daytona. Talk about the hard work of the crew for the 92 to piece it together and kind of put a little bit of zombie mode into it from the 91 as well.
Well, I wouldn't say zombie mode, but you know, for sure after qualifying, so much, and it goes for every team on pit lane. Everybody's blasting their cars apart through this re-prep process. So, you know, for us, it made more sense, I think, to go to what we had in the trailer kind of ready to go rather than, you know, go through the process of repairing and all that stuff. So, you know, to be honest with you, I think on paper it made the most sense. Obviously, Bill Riley, you know, Andy Kilcoyne, the whole Kelly Moss Riley team, these guys know a hell of a lot more about this stuff than I do, so I leave that decision-making in their court. But, yeah, it didn't seem to affect us really much. You know, we all know this is a good car. We're comfortable with it. It's working the exact same that our previous car did, and we're very fortunate to be back out here this weekend.
You've raced with some truly great teams. You won the championship back in 2019 with Meyer Shank Racing. What's it like to work with Bill Riley and Andy Kilcoyne and Victoria Thomas?
It's super cool. I mean, I'll tell you, it's tough to compete against them, and it's been like that for a long time. So obviously, it's nice to be here with them, fighting for a Rolex 24 victory with them. But funny enough, I mean, my first GTD race ever was with Bill Riley. Back in 2017, VIR, Hurricane Harvey was blasting through southeast Texas, and Ben Keating couldn't make the race, so he, I guess I was just the lucky guy on the day to get the call up to drive with your own Bleakmullen back when they had the Mercedes AMG. So that, it's like this weird full circle thing that has happened. But I mean, we're almost 7 years removed from that now. And it's a real pleasure to be back with Bill. I'm happy to see that nothing's changed. And it's actually very refreshing, too, to see a lot of the same guys are still here.
Didn't you wind up in the podium in that race?
We did. That was all your own. I was totally riding on your own coattails. But no, it was you know, it was a great day. It was an incredible day. But that was 100%, you know, the team. And, you know, I was just lucky to be in a really good situation and fortunate to take advantage.
Now, you've been on the podium in this race as well back in 2018, I think it was. You were the third driver in that situation. Now you're kind of the fourth driver, maybe third driver in this car. But as a professional, it's a very different role when you're not just the little silver amateur, isn't it?
It is. And it's amazing how, over time, just the exposure to this race and how much bigger it's even gotten over time. As hard as that is to believe, it's always been a massive event, but obviously now it's huge. But the experience really brings down the pressure and the comfort level goes up. So, I love this role because I'm able to enjoy this race so much more than back then. I mean, there's some argument to be made that ignorance is bliss, and certainly back then for me it was. But, now to be able to really still be here, still enjoying this, and take it all in is very special.
Enjoy every second of night practice. Thank you, Trent Hinman, driver of the number 92, Kelly Moss with Riley Porsche.
Thank you, Shay. Adam, our CrowdStrike WeatherTech pit reporter. Very good. Thank you to all of you for your kind words on the Mazda race, the Whelen Mazda MX-5 Cup for 2024. Just a quick one, if you were watching and listening earlier on, being made aware of the fact that Gresham Wagner won that with a flat left tyre. That happened before he did the donuts. Amazingly, he got clobbered as he was coming to the line. I've seen a couple of stills now of that. So he actually crossed the line with a flat left Michelin, somewhat remarkably, and still managed to take the race. That's worth a little chat, I think, with him. We'll find him before the race tomorrow and see what he can tell us about that. Now this is interesting. We're talking about the Rileys there, Jeremy, down with Chair.
Yeah, Bill Riley, who's the Riley Motorsports. Of course, originally it was Bob Riley, Bill's father. And last night at the Road Racing Drivers Club dinner, Bobby Rahal, the club president, presented the club's top award, which is a Phil Hill Award, which is basically for services to road racing. I think the citation says the person who the RNC feels has rendered outstanding service in road racing. And Bob Riley was given that award last night. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to be there. He was planning to be there, but a couple of weeks ago, he had a fall in the shop and broke his pelvis.
Oh, that's
that's really sad. And he's still designing race cars. He designed the Trans Am car. I think that Chris Dyson won last year's Trans Am Championship. So still as prolific as ever. Great guy. And other former winners of the Phil Hill Award. The first one was in 1993, which it was first presented to John Bishop. Subsequent winners of the Phil Hill Award include Rob Dyson, Danny Sullivan, Elliot Ford Robinson, Bill France, Derek Bell, Brian Redman, Jim France, Skip Barber, Roger Penske, Bob Bondurant, Rick Mears, Hurley Haywood, Chip Ganassi, Scott Pruitt, David Hobbs, and Mark Raffle for IMSA as well, who was the recipient last year. So some big names in the sport, and it was a very popular decision to give that award to Bob Riley for his services last night.
And well deserved, absolutely, Jeremy.
Wonderful guy.
Great stuff. And it was the number 13 car that hit Gresham Wagner, by the way.
Amongst others.
Well, amongst others, yes. That was.
Yeah. There was a little bit of contact during that race.
Workman was being
half
investigated.
the cars had their rear bumpers.
Anybody, as I said during the commentary, anybody who didn't have their bumper falling off just wasn't trying hard enough, really. They hadn't committed enough to what was going on. Fully commit to Whelen Mazda. We're with WeatherTech Sports Car Championship now with an hour and a half on the clock when we started. I expect to see, Peter, a lot of ins and outs for pit stops.
You'll see a lot of ins and outs for pit stops for several reasons. Some teams will be taking tyres from their Michelin tyre allocation and just scrubbing them in, so taking that initial slickness off them of when they come out of the mould. That will mainly be for in the hours of darkness, where it's a tiny bit cooler, albeit we are expecting to have one of the warmest Rolex 24s for many years, but no tyre warmers here in IMSA, so a little scrub can sometimes make a difference for the teams. Also, the drivers have got to get some of the drivers have to get night laps in, so they need 3 night laps. For the bronze drivers, that's mandatory. For gold and platinum drivers, they are exempt from that night lap requirement.
Yeah, if they've raced here before. And there's 49 drivers out of the 228 that are required to take part in this night practice session if they're going to drive during the night hours of this year's 62nd Rolex 24 at Daytona.
Shea Adam is our CrowdStrike pit reporter for this session and has an update on Faf's McLaren.
For fans of the Plaid, you're not going to see that car out around the circuit tonight. They had a mechanical issue that's actually going to preclude them from running at all. But the car is out on the pit lane because Faf knows this time is invaluable. Rather than fix the car in between the sessions and then lose this entire time of being able to be on the pit lane, they're doing fuel drops. So you will see the car on the pit lane if you're here at the track. With the doors up, no drivers anywhere nearby. They're practicing their refueling time, trying to make sure that it is exactly 40 seconds, which is the minimum refueling time. Then they're going to roll the car back behind the wall, empty out the fuel tank, come back out, do it again, go back, do it again, and rinse and repeat. So this is the kind of thing that does. This is why they've won championships.
It sounded fantastic, whatever that was pulling away, Shea.
19 Lamborghini,
she said, is in my ears, Peter. You can't beat a howling V10, P-Mac, can you?
It's pretty special. That engine, I think if you look at the R&D dollars spent, I don't think you got much better value out of that engine because it's been in the Audi R8, it's been in the Lamborghini Huracan, both race and road cars, and very successfully.
I had it in an Audi estate car.
In an RS6, of course it was in the RS6, wasn't it?
S6.
Was it an S6 as well?
S6 estate, which was one of the most ultimate Q cars you could have had, because it wasn't even the bulbous wheel-arched RS6. It had S6 on the back, and it had a chrome Lamborghini V10 badge on each front wing, and that was it. And when you started it up, it sounded like a horde of angry insects every time you fired it up. Or an old World War II. Actually, it probably sounded more like an old World War II fighter as it fired up. It was an incredible piece of gear. Normally aspirated, of course, so nothing to quiet it down. I've very much frightened a guy in an XKR S Jaguar on the A43 past Silverstone once. I'll say no more. Speed limit was not disregarded, though. Only up to 70. But it got there very quickly.
I do think the new Coyote engines Mustang GT3 is going to definitely be up there in the competition for most musical note of any of the race cars out there. Both in its GT3 and GT4 form, it must be said. It's a violent, snarling sound.
Can you imagine what that's going to be like when we get them together for the Mustang Challenge? Multiple of those together. Oh my goodness. Malcolm Wilson's M Sport doing that engine for that car.
Yeah, the block starts off. The block starts off at the Ford production plant.
Correct.
It starts life as a Coyote 5-litre V8. Then it's bored out to 5.4 at the Essex engine plant before it's then shipped away to Cumbria in the United Kingdom, where the M Sport, very much known for world rallying, basically complete the engine, build it by hand, and then it gets shipped back to Multimatic here in the United States. So it goes on quite a journey, the engine.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, it's a lot of miles before it gets into a race car.
It's got to have its Ester.
A rebuild when as soon as it gets
got to have its Ester and its all its vaccinations going one way and coming back the other.
That's right. It's going to be interesting to see how many cars we get out on the track this evening. I saw a few people down, just had some supper down in the paddock area, and got a chance to speak to a few people. Number 14, Vassar Sullivan Lexus, I do not expect to see out there. They're pretty happy where they are, don't want to put any extra miles on it, look after the tyres, etc., etc., etc. I think a few other teams are not going to do many laps either just do the minimum they need to do to get their night drivers qualified, night practice laps, to enable them to be able to drive at night during the race, do some refueling stops, do some pit stop practices, and then call it a night. So, there will be some teams that run all the way through this hour and a half, but I think there's quite a few who are planning not to overextend themselves this evening. Of course, just one more practice after tonight will take place tomorrow afternoon, I think. The last practice before the race.
Just lunchtime tomorrow,
Yeah.
actually. And that is effectively the warm-up. There's no warm-up on Saturday morning, which we don't always have a warm-up for IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. There's no warm-up, for example, at Sebring either. And we do have a warm-up at Road Atlanta for Batul Patel and Mon. We don't at the Salem 6 Hours of the Glen. And I can't remember, we haven't had the long race at Indianapolis yet, so I don't know, and I haven't seen a timetable. We seldom, if ever, have a warm-up for the shorter races. So, it used to be a thing, didn't it, warm-up? Formula One even used to have a warm-up. Time since that happened. I suppose that speaks to the reliability of racing cars nowadays, Jeremy, that they go up their warm-up procedures, they pre-warm the coolant and the lubricant. I'm hesitant to say water and oil because probably neither of those are true, but they go through a preheating process before they fire the engine up, and then it runs for a bit, then they take it to the grid, and then it's ready to go. Looks like your street car, scarily enough.
Pretty comprehensive program they have to go through before that, but good point.
At RSL, and sorry, excuse me, at
IndyCar race breaking out again. We've got Joseph Newgarden ahead of Scott Dixon, ahead of Colton Hurt. Look out of place on any NGT IndyCar Series race at the moment. So Newgarden fastest at the moment, 1:36.018. That's a pretty good lap.
You mentioned warm-up cycles. For those who have got the privilege of being at the circuit this weekend, go to one of the Mercedes AMG pits and listen to that car on its warm-up cycle. It's like the world's ending. It's I remember being at the pit lane in Monza last year, and the CP Racing team warming their 6.2 litre V8 AMG up, and
that's still the big engine car, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Interesting enough, of course, the Aston Martin used the 4-litre AMG
turbo
engine.
Yeah,
that hasn't made its way into the AMG race cars yet.
It's interesting.
It will do.
But the GT4 version of the Mercedes AMG GT does use it.
When that deal was done with Aston Martin to use that 4-litre engine for their street cars, one of their race cars, I got a good look at the car long before it was released, and we recorded a whole load of features before it came out, on the strict understanding that obviously we wouldn't play them. In fact, we played the road car feature as it was being unveiled to the press, and we played the race car feature as that was being unveiled to the press as well. And thank you very much to Aston Martin and Aston Martin Racing for trusting us with that, because they never even asked us to sign a piece of paper, would you believe it? However, talking to the engine guys, they said they were stunned at how relatively laconic AMG were about what they did to their engine. Would like to tune it a bit and make it a bit more Aston Martin-y. Yeah, fine. Well, we actually quite like to change the timing, a few of the electronics, maybe some of the internals. Yeah, it's fine. And that's not what you expect, is it? But that's a true partnership that they have with AMG for the supply of the components.
And in a good way, that gives the car a different character. I think that's important.
That's exactly what they were going for.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, because if you're in the showroom and you're thinking, well, if you take the road car, for example, you go, oh, do I buy this car or that car? And they both got the same engine, and if it's tuned identically, then it's going to feel fairly similar inside. So, no, really, really interesting, that, actually. So
I was shocked at the time, and it's a story that I keep remembering to bring up from time to time, because I think it's really important to see that that's how those manufacturers can work together. Aston Martin is not by any stretch of the imagination selling the amount of cars that Mercedes will do, and probably not even that AMG will do. But that's a pretty good good go. A few cars that were having problems earlier on. I'll go through the cars that we haven't seen this evening and are unlikely to see at this point. But let's first of all get some updates on the recent Ferrari and the Corvette number 3. Corvette number 3 was back in its garage earlier on. We just had an incident for the number 74, the Riley Ranch 74 Orica, which is back on the track though. This was coming through turn 1 and a big spin and a flat spot of all 4 Michelin tyres as they hit the transition. I don't think they hit the tyre wall. They've got a right rear puncture on that tyre actually. That's through the flat spot. Car sitting in 7th in its category at the moment. I'm not sure that car's going to get back. It's Josh Burden behind the wheel of that car. Shay, go ahead with the update while we watch this car limping back.
Okay, the 3 Corvette was back in the garage for a lot of the last session, all of the last session as a matter of fact. It's out on track right now, turning laps in the darkness. This car, which had an issue the other day, it was during the Roar as a matter of fact, there was a little bit of some rubbing that was not pleasing to the Corvette Racing crew as the red flag is out. That car actually into the pit lane goes straight to the pit out entrance. So they're waiting to go back on the track when the red flag is lifted. I would assume the red flag out to retrieve the 74 Riley. But the problem was some rubbing that was causing some friction within the engine compartment, and the crew did not like that. So unfortunately, they believe that started up again, which is why they missed part of the session, but they think that they might have gotten it fixed. So that's the good news. They're out doing a long run now to try and see if the drivers report similar feelings. If they don't, then everything is good and back to normal. The 4 car was in the pits with the hood off, actually. Earl Bamber behind the wheel with the crew now having figured out the issue and put the hood back on, but now the red flag means that they can't go back out. The other car that I checked in on was the number 62 Risi Competizione Ferrari, because I feel like every time I've looked at that car's box, the car's been sitting there, at least as far as practice today is concerned. So I went over and I checked with Rick Mayer, the genius on their pit box, to say, are you worried? Is everything okay? He's not worried. Everything's okay.
Okay, that's good. Some better news then. Not for Josh Burden and the Ranch 74 Riley Run Orica with, I think, 2 flat tyres at the rear of that car. He wasn't going to get that back. The hard-working IMSA racer, AMR safety crew. The left, right, now the left rear went, that might have been down even before he turned in, actually. So
it's cause rather than effect?
Nah, maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say, but that was a high-speed spin, and there used to be a tyre wall that went all the way across there. That disappeared a few. Who ran straight into it? Was it? It was the Wayne Taylor racing car, wasn't it? Was it Max when he was still driving? Am I making that up? Did I dream it? Seeing a cartoon? It's meant to stop you from going. It was meant to stop the drivers from going straight on. Josh is out of the car, and our intrepid AMR safety crew saw the guys and girls at breakfast this morning and said, "Hope you have a very boring day," which is our usual greeting. We say that in the nicest possible way.
Very jealous of their company cars.
The Cayenne GTS.
We were admiring it at one Daytona last night.
It rumbles.
Oh.
It rumbles. Tell you what, Pete.
With Whalen Engineering lights.
Oh, yeah, we love those. The synchronous lights are great. I thought it was Bluetooth, and I found out today that is actually satellite controlled, and they can synchronise the clocks on the flashing lights. Oh, that's just too clever. Far too clever. Pete, whilst we've got a little bit of a red flag, you give your headset up, because I just saw Mark Miller behind you there. So let's get Mark in for a quick chat. It's on red, and we'll talk to his teammate in a wee second. Mark Miller, welcome to the booth. How are you, fella?
I'm quite good. It looks a lot more fun out there, though.
But
way down there.
Wearing the Faze colours. Now, come on, tell us about this, because this has been building for a wee while now. You and I talked about this a little over a year ago, was it?
Yes,
it
was
all
over
started
a year.
to come together, yeah?
Yeah, like late in in 2022 actually is when progress really started to dig in, but we didn't really get on track until the Detroit Grand Prix, which is 6 months later. So, but when Thais really puts their mind to it, they're going to do it proper the first time, and it gives us a great opportunity here to like really know where we're going to be from Sebring and on. So, announcement came out today. Have a teammate, young driver Josh Green, that's joining us. Coming from NXT and the Indy Lights, as well as the ladder series, the open wheel ladder series. So making his adjustment to sports car racing and really going to give him a welcome home and a proper send-off here for Sebring.
Thais and you are from the same part of the world, and it's incredible to think that Motor City and that area of the US, and I think you're the only driver from there, and I think Thais are pretty much the only team from there.
Yeah, it's always surprising to me. For years, even when I got a chance to go to Le Mans, I was the only professional sports car racer that lives in Michigan, born in Michigan. And when I got the news that Thais was going to start a team in Detroit, I'm like, it's my home state. I have to reach out to them. Like, you need me, I need you. I really want to work with a team based out of Michigan. I think it's got a lot of synergy that way. And it's the Motor City. I mean, who wouldn't want race teams coming from Detroit? It's a great opportunity. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy. I feel like I found a pretty good home. We have a little saying, Thais fam, and it's like a family unit. Like, I feel part of their family. We've grown pretty close pretty quickly. So, we've only run 2 races, but we've made a big impact right away. And so,
tell us about those 2 races, because we'll get you teammate in a sec, but you've been there for both of those races. But it was an extraordinary debut, an entry into the racing, into the championship.
We came out of the blocks swinging in a good Detroit fashion,
Absolutely.
So, I mean, we shook the car down literally for a couple hours. Michael DeMeo and I were teamed up for the 2 races last year, and qualified well, practiced well, always at the sharp end of the grid, and had a great podium result right from the get-go. And honestly, if I wasn't I take some of the blame for not winning the race, because if I was a little more, if I was the confident.
This is the Detroit race.
The Detroit race.
Oh, man, that was so hard to pass on that track, on the new track.
We had a potential for the lead there, but I was so worried about not making any contact that would end our race that I wasn't really that aggressive to maintain the lead. And there was a good opportunity there to do what Morad did in the other AMG, and really get through and then pad the gap, because we had the pace to run up front and win. But I think the end result is still the same. We were able to really celebrate there on the waterfront, spraying champagne. We had so many people there. It was fantastic. And then to go right back into Motorsport. We didn't know. Again, I usually know a week in advance if I'm racing with this program. And it's at Motorsport, it was kind of like, hey, are we going to race? Because I kind of want to book my travel and get up there. And Motorsport was the same type of thing. But when they commit to it, it's 100%. Same thing happened here at Daytona last weekend. I really showed up here to help out the team and had no intention of racing a car, and turned out I was racing. So
is it going to be a full pilot challenge campaign this year?
Yeah, from Sebring on is the plan. Yeah.
Cool. And why not here?
I don't know. It didn't all come together quick enough. And again, if they're not 100% sure that it's going to fly right from the get-go and be a perfect result, if they know that we can't just put all of our best feet forward collectively as a team, they would rather save it for a better day, and I think that's the plan. And now we have ducks lined up. We're ready to go, and we're going to launch that at Sebring.
Let's get Josh in that seat. Swap over, if you don't mind, Mark, and we'll have a wee word with your teammate as we go back green. It'll be a little while before we get back up to speed. Josh, welcome. What an opportunity, and welcome to the IMSA paddock.
thank you very much. It's been a very warm welcome today. I've seen a lot of familiar faces. Mark has brought me around the paddock. It's been really awesome to shake so many hands and meet so many people. And man, you cannot walk more than 5 feet down the paddock without someone trying to shake Mark Miller's hand.
Oh, well, he's the Miller Show. That's why we call him the Miller Show.
Absolutely,
no doubt about it. Now you've come from open wheel ranks. Basically, you've been coming up through the ladder system. You know Jeremy very well from Team USA. Do you have to have an open mind about where your career is going to go in terms of becoming because you want to become a professional racing driver?
Absolutely, you always do. And obviously, when opportunities come, you have to sort of grab them by the horns and get after it. I've been very lucky for Thays to sort of give me the opportunity to allow me to move into sports cars, and to have someone like Mark Miller at my side helping me learn and make the transition very well. I think it'll open my eyes to a whole new world of racing.
Have you sat in the car? Have you ran the car yet?
Nope, I have not sat in that car yet. I'm very excited to be a part of the Mercedes family and get to drive one of these very cool cars. I've gotten some experience in GT4 cars. I work up at Monticello Motor Club, which is just north of New York City, and I spent a lot of time up there. I work with a lot of different drivers and a lot of different cars, GT3, GT4, Miatas, so I've gotten the experience in lots of different cars, but never a Mercedes, funnily enough.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When are you going to get your first opportunity then? Don't tell me it's in first practice at Sebring.
Hopefully early February, before first practice at Sebring. So,
Jeremy, you know this young man quite well.
Indeed so, yes. How's the film career coming along? You're still doing your movie projects?
I have. I do a lot more imagery now, though. A lot more film imagery. That's been sort of the thing I've been on. I'm doing sort of race-by-race documentaries with all my film.
Really? Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Multifaceted is Josh Green.
So, and what sort of stuff are you doing, Josh?
Mostly just film photography. I've been in photography sort of my whole life, and when I was younger, even prior to my whole racing career, I was doing photography for money, and then obviously racing took over the world there.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you reckon to this as a vista? Could you do something with this from the Global Broadcast Centre?
Absolutely. I've seen so many awesome photos with the Ferris wheel, with the very long shutter panning shots.
Yeah.
So cool, because the cars, they all have those little LED strips, so you get to see sort of the different funky colors. So it's very nice to see all the different photographers experimenting.
Have you seen any night racing before?
I've been to the 24 before, one other time in 2019, I believe. Yeah, same year as the scholarship. So
right.
yeah.
As a spectator?
As a spectator.
All right.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. You won't have done many long races either, so there's a 4-hour race coming for Michelin Pilot Challenge at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, where Pilot Challenge is the main event. So that's something really exciting to look forward to.
Extremely exciting. It'll be my first real endurance race in a car. I've done one singular other event in an MX-5 Cup car that was just over an hour in the car, but besides that, I've never spent more than, let's say, in 45 minutes in a race car before.
You are going to love it. You are going to love it, because it gives you the opportunity to see racing in a whole different way and how it develops out there. Both Jeremy and I have done a bit of longer distance racing. I was fortunate enough to do a GT4 24-hour race at Kota a few years ago, and we play at it. You're doing it for a job, so good luck with that. What do you set yourself goals for the season, and if so, what are they?
Absolutely. I've worked with Jacques Dallaire throughout sort of my career on the way up here, just on the mental coaching side. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned from him is the goal should always be to show up to every weekend and perform at the best of my ability, right? We see all these different sort of terms being thrown around about drivers being professional drivers, and the biggest thing that makes them pros is that they do the job to the best of their ability in every single facet, no matter the adversity or anything that happens. Inherently, we can't guarantee results, but we can do our best, and we can make sure that we get absolutely everything out of every weekend, and I believe if we do, we'll be fighting for a championship at the end of the year.
And we've got a 4-hour race tomorrow. Are you hanging around for that to watch the Michelin Pilot Challenge?
Absolutely, I'll be around.
Checking out the competition, because you want to, as Mark said, Thays don't do anything by half measures.
No, absolutely not. And obviously, as he was saying, that's one of the reasons we weren't here. Thays is 100% committed in making the strongest possible competitor throughout the entire season. So I'm going to be here watching. I'll sort of keep an eye out for what different cars are doing. And the biggest thing that's different is the way the stint system works. Obviously, in all of my Formula Car experience, there are only ever one driver in the car. I know a lot of the times here we have a stronger driver finish the race, and the weaker driver start off the race. So it'd be very interesting to see sort of the difference between those starting and finishing drivers.
And that sometimes changes in the 4-hour races as well. You get more even, more equitable split. Josh, welcome to the world of endurance racing. Are you still keeping an eye on single-seaters?
Oh, I always will have an eye for it, right? I mean, it's always going to be sort of that goal of yours that's always sitting there, but the real goal for me is just to become a professional race car driver, and I think this is the best direction, and I'm extremely fortunate to have Thays helping me out with that.
Well, you're not going to hear any gainsaying of that from anyone in this booth or indeed any of our listeners. Josh Green, thanks for joining us. Mark Miller was with him beforehand from Thays, and that's a couple of names to keep in your mind. Thays, we know how good they are, and Josh Green, we will find out how good he is. Josh, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's head back down to Shay with a CrowdStrike pit lane report. Shay, what do you got?
We've got our first team that's done for the night. That would be Magnus Racing. That will surprise nobody who's been fans of them for a very long time. They sent out Andy Lally, made sure that the headlights were pointed in the right direction, and parked it for the night.
What a super bit of news there from Mark Miller and from Josh Green. Jeremy, Thays burst onto the scene and did an absolute cracking job. We expect nothing less of Mark, in fairness, consummate professional, but even so, to get the results they did at Detroit and then at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, I think it's quite funny actually listening to Mark saying, I could have won that race if I'd been a bit more aggressive. It was a fantastic race. I was at Le Mans when we called that from the Trothand's kitchen, and it was absolutely stunning. I thoroughly enjoyed that. They're not going to do things in half measure. That's a really interesting project to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's a brand new team, just set up last year, but most of the guys on that team got a lot of experience in all sorts of different series as well. So, they're a really good group of professionals who are committed, as Josh and Mark both said, to winning. That's what it's all about in the sport, isn't it? If you're there to make up the numbers, you're wasting your time and money. That's not what that Thays competition team is all about. So that's a great opportunity for him, and good to see that another Team USA driver back racing again, because he started off in Indy Next last season, and the budget didn't last through the year. And I know he was talking to with some teams to get back into the series for this year. Did a test, I think, in December. But I think this is a really smart move for him, and I think he'll. As you heard him there, he speaks well. He's a good representative, and this is a very sensible decision.
And it's indicative now of the hard choices sometimes that young drivers have to make very early on in their career, Jeremy. And you deal with so many. You see so many of these young drivers, both male and female, who have a dream of the top flight in single-seater motorsport, either IndyCar or Formula One, and that it is such an infinitesimally small percentage of drivers that get through there. There's 22 drivers in Formula One, under 30 drivers in IndyCar. That's such a tough ask.
And the budgets these days are so astronomical. I mean, they're just out of reach certainly clear out of reach for most sort of normal people. You've got to pull lots of strings to get yourself up the any racing ladder, to be honest. But it's not easy. And one of last year's Team USA scholarship drivers is only 17. Jack Sullivan.
Yeah,
he was here last night. He got in yesterday evening. Came on to the RDC dinner, and he did Formula Fords this year. He did the festival and the Walter Hayes Trophy in the UK, and he's been trying to get a ride for next season. Looked about 3 days ago like he wasn't going to be doing much this year, if at all. And then he's made some connections through Brad Kettler, actually, who's a with whom he lives close to. And Brad made an introduction, and day before yesterday, he got a call from a guy who has a TCR car that he's going to be driving in, just in sort of local events or smaller events for this year, but then with a possibility of moving up into one of the professional series next year. So he's already looking at the sports car route, and he's super excited about it as well.
We see the over in Europe as well, Peter, with young drivers who have the aspirations of being the next Lewis Hamilton or Fernando Alonso or Jenson Button. Not sure anybody really wants to be Max Verstappen, do they? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe as a driver, not as a person. But even if you look at a relatively small GT field, even if there's only 25 cars there, that's 50 drivers rather than 25 drivers. You get up to something like this, there's 60 cars, 59 cars. How many drivers did you say, Jeremy?
106 in Pilot Challenge.
106 in Pilot Challenge. Yeah. And how many in Rolex?
228.
Right, well, even if only half of those are professionals, even if only a third of those are professionals, it's a numbers game at the end of the day, Peter.
Totally agree. And there's also people have different definitions of what professional means. Professional can mean, being paid a salary, but some might say professional is having a seat in a race car without having to bring any money, and you can then collect sponsorship for your helmet or for whatever it might be, and that kind of thing. There's business models of championships we have in the UK are kind of like that, where nobody's being paid a salary, but there's people who are making a living. If that sounds odd, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Because they're doing their own business deals.
Correct.
And that's a bit of clever thinking. And Jason Plato did that for years.
He probably created the model, I would say.
He made a limited company out of his racing, and off he went. And I think it's a really good point to make. And also, in sports car and endurance racing, you've got manufacturers who are investing. Yeah. Porsche have been the model there, but Lamborghini and other teams have got junior driver programs. Look at how much Mazda put into the MX-5. That $1.2 million. Now it's not all going to go to one person, but heavens above, there's not another series anywhere in the world that's got that kind of money at that level of racing.
No, unless you go and win the Indy 500.
Other than in this country. Other than in this country. The rest of the world there isn't.
No, exactly.
I mean,
here it would have to be stock car
racing. In North America, because there is that sort of ladder system both in open wheel and in sports cars as well. And but you go to England and win a championship, and well done, and pay 3 times as much next year.
The winning car at Le Mans. I think the last time I looked, it's €30,000 for the and a lovely trophy, mind you, and a place in history. Don't get me wrong, but racing here in the States, there's a number of championships that you can probably break even or do a little bit better. Whether it's World of Outlaws or there's money to be had there for Mazda we talked about as well. Let's go down to Shea down in the pit lane for us and our CrowdStrike pit report and more answers to more questions that we've been asking.
And this one's going to make you really happy, and I'm really happy that Jeff Mustawi was able to answer it for me. What do the cars look like when they go to the wind tunnel testing? What kind of livery is on the car? Well, it is a standard matte wrap, and they are patrolled with how they apply the wrap to the car. They're very cognizant of where the seams are. Once the car is done with the testing, they are then 3D scanned to make sure that there is a record of exactly how the car looked for every millimeter, including the bottom of the car. Everything is noted, and then they are held to that benchmark standard. So really cool. I actually got to see a picture of it. It looks almost like a flat Cerakote kind of a thing, and the cars look completely neutral, no headlights, no nothing. It's just the shape, and it's a really neat thing. So we asked the question, and thank you to our friends in IMSA Technical for answering.
Excellent, thank you very much, and thanks to Matt for answering that question. That was the answer to the question. Jeff, excuse me. Thank you, Jeff. That was the answer to the question we asked earlier on about matte finish versus gloss finish on cars, whether it made a difference, and it prompted the thought from us here, as a moment or two ago, we had the number 60 Iron Lynx Lamborghini going through the tyre chicane and not through the Le Mans chicane, but stays up high on the walls and didn't get anybody's way. Probably the question for me about...
Paid attention to the briefing, in other words.
Yes, indeed. Probably the question for me is to how the cars are benchmarked when they go to the wind shear tunnel to have all the data recorded, and whether they would be in bare carbon. Well, of course, even in bare carbon, there would be differences between one car and another. So a standard matte wrap then put on by the sanctioning body, by IMSA, and then the car 3D scanned before it goes in and when it comes out, so that they have a true benchmark. Excellent work from Jeff and the team, and thank you to Shea for finding that one out. I love it. Every day is a school day, and I like to learn that kind of stuff, because that talks to Jeremy. We always talk about teams that have attention to detail, and sometimes it's easy to forget the sanctioning body has to have that same attention to detail.
Yeah, it's good to see, isn't it? I mean, everybody tries to throw the sanctioning body under the bus and blame the sanctioning body for whatever if things aren't going right, and they can fight back as well, as they're doing, of course, in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, in effectively tasking the manufacturers rather than the IMSA technical department on the making the balance and performance adjustments from race to race. I think that's a really interesting concept. It's one I don't think I've heard of anywhere else.
Shall we have a look at some times in the darkness, Jeremy? They don't count for anything, but my goodness, we're seeing some rapid times, ce soir. What have we got?
We have, Pipa Durrani went fastest about 5 minutes or so ago, I think, while we were talking to Josh Green. Pipa Durrani turned the best lap of 1:35.708, which is quicker than anybody went this morning. Best time then was at 1:36.0 by Scott Dixon. The fastest time in the second session, mid-afternoon, was a 35.589 by Alex Palou in the number 01, also in the number 01 Cadillac. And now it's the number 31 Cadillac that is fastest again, 1:35.708. 0.3 of a second quicker than the number 7 Porsche. It was actually Felipe Nasser that set that time very, very early in the session before handing the car over to Joseph Newgarden. Augusto Farfus, number 24 BMW, got out fairly late, but has jumped up into the third position for the BMW M Hybrid V8. That's car number 24. Third fastest at a 1:36.332. Fractionally ahead of Scott Dixon in his number 01 Cadillac.
Peter, you've been crunching some of the times further down, and it's considerably cooler now, with the air temperature 24 degrees, track temperature 26 Celsius. That's 79 Fahrenheit on the track, 75 in the air, and that has had a difference to, if you like, the balance of performance. Here's another thing that has to be taken into consideration.
Well, you look at the top of the timesheets in GTD at the moment. They happen to be two GTD Pro cars, both Corvette Z06 GT3 Rs, both naturally aspirated, of course. The Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo 2, car number 60, that was Matteo Cairoli who set that lap very early in the session, also a naturally aspirated car. And then the Ford Mustang of Harry Tinknell. Now, you might think that does not sound unusual at all for those to be at the top of the timesheets, but in the first two sessions today, in more of the heat of the day, the Lamborghinis were really looming down at the bottom of the timesheets. Likewise were those new Ford Mustang GT3s, and the Corvettes were not showing not displaying some of the pace that they've got it within there. So there definitely is something about whether it be the darkness or the coolness that those cars are really enjoying, it seems.
Yeah, there's two Corvette times there. Tommy Milner turned it's actually Earl Bamber in the number 4 car, 1:46.770. That is the fastest time of the day in GTD. The second quickest time in the number 3 car is Alexander Sims, who's driving that car at the moment. Tommy Milner is at the wheel of number 4. So, really, really good lap times there. Just looking back to qualifying the other day, the fastest time was set by Sebastian Priaulx in the AO Racing number 77. That's the Porsche, the 1:44.3. So that's the ultimate qualifying time that is best. But this is the best practice time we've seen so far in GTD Pro. And it's interesting, finally, for the first time, as you were just alluding to there, Peter Mackay, the top 4 are GTD Pro cars. Then the best of the GTDs and non-pros, which is Daniel Formal, who set the time for the Andretti WTR entry, number 45, to Lamborghini, of course. Then 2 more pro cars, the James Calado Ferrari, Fabrizio Competizione, and the number 1 Paul Miller Racing BMW, with Brian Sellers, who set that time just a few minutes ago.
Beautiful time of the evening. The Ferris wheel right into its I'm really showing off phase here with every colour on
Watch
that.
this.
It's brilliant. Big moon as well tonight as it came up. If it's not a full moon, it must be pretty. I don't think it is a full moon tonight, actually.
It's trying its best to cut through any cloud that is there. Powerful moon. Not quite as powerful as the floodlights here at Daytona International Speedway, which astound me every single time I come here. That and the PA system, I'm surprised you could. I wouldn't be surprised if you could hear the PA system in Orlando. It's so strong.
I've just had a phone call from somebody in Orlando complaining about the noise.
Keep it down, Heino.
Yeah, absolutely. 45 minutes to go in this night session. There's still a goodly number of cars. I said a bit earlier on, we talked about the cars that haven't been out. Don't read anything into this, but actually fewer than I thought, because one or two of the ones that were late on parade have turned some laps now. Magnus, we heard, had just set the headlights and gone back in there when he'd done 6 laps. Andretti Motorsports did 13 laps and then pitted. We haven't seen those guys for a little while. The cars we've not seen, the number 9 Pfaff Motorsport McLaren, which we won't see. Jack Hawksworth and the rest of the Vassar Sullivan 14 Lexus team, the GTD Pro car. And Roman De Angelis and the rest of the Heart of Racing 27 GTD. In fact, as I say that, they have literally just gone out onto the pit lane and are heading out. So now only 2 cars that have not been out at all, that being the Pfaff Motorsport McLaren and the Vassar Sullivan Lexus number 14, the Pro car.
2 cars that I think are in very, very good shape for the race.
Yes.
And the Pfaff car, I think you look at how long a career Pfaff have had in IMSA, and it's actually, you think they've been around forever, but they actually haven't been. And they've grown so quick to a place of prominence. But when you see what they're doing now, rather than just sort of parking it up and saying, right, that's fine, they're going there. The whole crew are there meticulously practicing, getting every last ounce of performance out of themselves, out of the strategy, the car, everything. And it's no surprise why McLaren and Pfaff have come together. Yes, Pfaff Automotive are a very significant McLaren dealer in Canada, but it goes beyond that too. And I think when you look at Pfaff's results, it's no surprise why they've got this opportunity.
Improvement last time around by Mikkel Jensen for TDS Racing, the number 11 car. Had a few little niggly problems earlier on. 139.964 for an Oregon LMP2 car. That moves him into 4th position in class, just 0.071 behind Ferdy Habsburg, who's in the pit lane for Tower. At IMSA Radio, please. By all means, if you're trackside here, listening on 107.9 WWDIS, please send us your pictures and let's have a look at your nighttime images. I could stand here and just shoot pictures on my phone all night. It's such a brilliant view. Right across the tri-oval, which is very brightly lit, through the infield, not quite as brightly lit, and then the very particular lighting, of course, on the rest of the oval, specially designed so that it doesn't shine into the eyes of the driver. It's all coming from slightly alongside and behind them. Really very cleverly done, these Speedway systems. Lightning for the first time around the whole circuit at Dubai for the 24 hours this weekend. Well, that's very much low-level lighting. It's not going to be as light as here. And still lots of questions coming in about our coverage of that. Yes, we've got a team out there headed by Phil Anson and Andrew Marriott, with Peter Snowden and Dinah Binks doing the pit work. And you'll hear Johnny Palmer and Bruce as well. Because the time zones really working for you if you're an endurance fan this weekend, because there's a full 10 and a bit hours of action before we even get to the grid here in our Michelin Countdown at Green. So depending on where your time zone is and how you work it, if you can't double screen it, then at least you can see a fair bit of action from Dubai before we start here, and swap and change as you need through the race. And of course it means that the business end of Daytona and the Rolex 24 here on Sunday at the 24 at Dubai Autodrome will be well in the history books by then. The engine you hear in the background is the number 40. It's the Dex Imaging Acura of rookie Jenson Button. 0.084 of a second behind, and that is behind Scott Dixon, who's just rolled out, or at least Scott Dixon's car. 0.16 of a second ahead, 1.2 of a second rather ahead of Maxime Martin. That is in his overall times, not on the track. Turn 1, little bit of action for the Rhubarb and Custard number 86 car, the yellow and dark red. It's a Porsche, currently sitting in 17th position in class for Karen Lee and MDK Motorsports, Mark Kwame's team.
We just run a little bit deep there into turn 1.
Yeah.
Kerong, he's the bronze graded driver in the car, and they've got a really interesting lineup there with Anders Fjordbak, who I believe is the full season driver alongside Kerong Lee for the season, and then Klaus Bachler, Porsche factory driver, and Larry Ten Voorde. I'm so pleased to see Larry Ten Voorde getting an opportunity here at the Rolex 24. He's a multiple Super Cup champion, multiple Carrera Cup Deutschland champion, Carrera Cup Italia champion, and he's won in the World Endurance Championship on the very rare occasions he's been given a chance. So to see Larry get this opportunity is really, really encouraging.
A serial winner in Porsche Cup.
Just knows how to get it done.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Does he ever?
Now, curiously though, he's driven for the Dutch, well, he is Dutch, and he's driven for the Dutch GP Elite team for several years, and that's where he's had a lot of his success. But he's actually switched for this year's Super Cup season. He's gone to Combe Ledegar's team.
Yes. Very interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So 38 and a half minutes to go. RS2, part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels, audio and visual. That's IMSA Radio around the world. All free, live, no blocks or breaks. Here at the track, 107.9 FM. At the weekend, the race is flag to flag on Sirius XM 202. For those of you outside the US, then we can give you the pictures as well without interruption. Let's head back down to Shea for more comments from drivers who've been out, some drivers who haven't been out. Which version do you have now, Shea?
Driver who's just been out, because Andrea Caldarelli, you look like you've been working hard, and it is hot for this Rolex. How is the Lamborghini? Because I imagine it's a little bit less warm out here than it would be behind the wheel of the car.
Yeah, it's quite hot. It's quite humid as well in the car. But let's say compared last week, we didn't expect such a big change of temperature. But so far we're going quite well. We're testing for the race. We're trying to double stint tires and see what's happening. And with this heat, it's not going to be easy for the race. So far so good.
As far as you guys are concerned, you have 3 out of 4 drivers that have Rolexes already. How badly do you want to get one for poor Jordan?
Yeah, that's what he keeps saying since like 2 weeks. So we have to get one for him, that's for sure.
Well, I hope Dakota's listening because as a person who's married to a Florida girl, you should have a little bit of advantage knowing that it was going to be this hot.
Yeah, I know almost every single city of Florida now, so I've been a bit everywhere, from Tallahassee to Miami. So it's always my favorite race of the year, really. So even if we start, just after Christmas, it's the first race of the year, but it's definitely my favorite of the calendar.
Do you approach this race in particular with any different sort of sentiment? Because the next race, hopefully, you're going to be in the top class.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm not thinking about March. I'm thinking about this race. I really want to get it done, not just for Jordan, but for me as well. So, but it's just, I know that I'm going to change car from Sebring, but this crew deserve like good position at the end of the race here. So it's very important for Lamborghini, this race. So we will push hard to make this happen.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Just to explain that, Andrea will be in the SC63 on the US debut of the Lamborghini GTP LMDH car. Looking forward to that. And will that be its first time out, or will it have already been out for the WEC by then? No, they would have been out for the WEC by then, won't it? Because they've got their first race at the end of February, and their prologue before that at the Sail circuit in Qatar.
Just when you think that number 75 Sun Energy 1 Mercedes couldn't get any more colourful, it's got what looks like radioactive matter underneath the grille.
Well, it's normally the red or amber lights that make it look like it's on fire. They're bright green. You are absolutely right. It looks like a cinematic version of radioactive fuel rods. Oh, spin on the back straight.
Is that the Era car?
It's 22. It's the United car.
Joey Garg, last year's VP Racing Sports Car Challenge champion.
That's at the exit of turn 7 coming onto the...
Yeah, I think he lost it coming into turn 1 and went straight on.
Yeah, yep.
Whoops.
And
whoa.
Then spins it under braking. So I said on the back straight, my apologies. It was right at the end of the front straight. He's going to have to do a whole lap. He's missed out the infield, of course, but that's all right. He won't get a penalty for that. He was completely out of control, and far better to continue the way he was than to come contra race.
Didn't look like he had a great deal of choice in the matter.
No.
It was very, very deep on the...
Did he snag a brake on the way in, or did he just miss his braking point completely? Because it didn't seem to be slowing down very much at all as he came in. Maybe hit a bump. There are a few there. Then just got off low on the what would be the run into turn 1. And I think it was the transition that caught him out. Car's been quietly doing its work in the last couple of days. Daniel Goldberg at the wheel. And one or two faster times coming in recently, but not a whole host of them. This is, I think, Jeremy, more about people getting used to what's going on. Having said that, Nicholas Nielsen and Alex Quinn have both done their cars best the last time around. And sorry, it was B.J. Garg, wasn't it, for United Autosports there. Now, he's just shown as a 1:35.9 last time around.
Oh yes, well yeah, because he cut out the.
Yes. So has he just continued? He didn't come in the pits then?
He didn't come in the pits, bizarrely.
Right. So he will lose that time.
You look at it, if you're just joining us, you think, oh, that kid's quick.
Yeah.
If only gone a couple of tenths quicker, he would have had the fastest time of the night, which would have been even better.
Yeah.
3 wide on the banking. MDK high class right down at the bottom. And they were kind of okay, but up in the middle and moving around rather a lot in the draft, the Ranch 74 Orica. And on the outside, the Purple People Eater is the number 99.
Which is Quinn.
Which is Spike, isn't it? Our Dragon. That was all a bit sketchy for a moment there, coming onto the tri-oval. just goes to prove that these cars do move a bit of air, Jeremy, and that's only the P2 cars. The GTP's a little bit bigger with a little bit more aero as well.
Fun stuff. We've seen some really tight battles, haven't we? It's almost like a race.
Can we remind ourselves, it's not even qualifying, it's practice.
Yeah.
Just practice.
It's when Ben Handley absolutely... I mean, to be fair, there wasn't... I think there might have been an ever so slight brush of contact, but it was the firmest move from... More than a slight brush.
I think so,
yes.
yeah.
I think there was a bit more.
Ben Handley stuffed it up the inside of Tom Dilbert in practice earlier on. The 01 Cadillac it's been running strong since they rolled it out the truck at the beginning of the Roar test and has continued that momentum. Scott Dixon brought the car into the pits. He's got out. It hasn't. They've just dropped it off the jacks. Wonder if we'll see that car back running. They've really done a lot of running through practice.
Who took the
most of it?
Who took the number 40 Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport out first, or was it big Jensen?
Colton Herter.
All right, okay. So did he do the 36.5?
Yes.
Right. Jensen's found the flash button, which I think he's enjoying. Nick Tandy's just put that car's fastest. That car being the Porsche Penske Motorsports 963, the number 6 car, 136.7. Good enough for 7th quickest at the moment. Nicholas Nielsen's improved the LMP2 time of the number 88. Richard Mille AF Corsa to 140.542. And Josh Burden, now with that run and a little bit of draft, got a 142.0.
That was it just now he's done that? So he got the car back going again?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Still just on 30 minutes, half an hour to go. IMSA Radio, at IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch. Chetila and the blue Ferrari going through in second position in GTD. Giorgio Sernagiotto behind the wheel of that car, just ahead of Alessandro Perghidi on the timesheet for the Pro Class Ricci Competizione.
Yeah, it was Eddie Cheever Jr. who set the time in the number 47 Chetila Ferrari just a little while ago. Lap 18 out of 22 that car has now completed during this night's session. It's still number 45 Lamborghini fastest in GTD. That was the time set by Danny Formal a little while ago. He and Carl Marcelli, of course, had a huge amount of success winning the Pro category in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo each of the last 2 years. They also raced last year with Ashton Harrison still in the Racers Edge Motorsports in conjunction with Wayne Taylor Racing Acura in the long distance races last year, and 1 or 2 other races as well. So that program now switching to a full-time ride for Danny Formal and Carl Marcelli with a Lamborghini, and that's Dex Imaging on the side of that car, that black and red car for WTR. Dex Imaging is never mind. I'll talk about that later. Well, it's Dex Imaging. So Dex Imaging, I think it's a basic copiers. I'm not sure whether that's the Golan's company, but Brady Golan, who's driving in the Pilot Challenge Series this weekend, start again. It's carry on.
Okay,
all right, I'll come back to
okay,
that
yes.
when I get my.
What I can say is they deliver those Dex Imaging cars. They do look fantastic. That red and black, they really do.
Jensen's
really
coming into the pits in his car, by the way.
So
a lap ago.
Good bit of running Jensen's got under his belt today.
Cadillac versus Acura on the high banks. The number 10 Cadillac at the moment being driven by Marcus Ericsson, and the gold fronted 01 Cadillac is Sebastian Bourdais, who seems to be driving that car every time I look at the timing screen. Seb's been in that car quite a lot.
They've spread the love, I think. I think every time I look, it's either Renger or Scott Dixon or Alex Palou. So I think they're spreading the love very well.
Jeremy's got his notes together.
Yeah, it's been a long day.
Here we go.
It's been a long day.
Dex imaging, Jeremy.
Yeah,
What's
Dex
that
imaging.
about?
So, Graham,
We'll cut the rest of that out in post.
So we talked. Yes, thank you. We talked about Danny Formal and Carl Marcelli being the full-time drivers in that 45 Lamborghini this season. Ashton Harrison, with whom those two drove last year in the Acura, also is driving this weekend in that car. And the fourth driver is, I think he is the youngest driver in the field, is Graham Doyle. And it's his family that is Dex Imaging. And it's also his family grandfather, actually, was Danker Copiers. It was on Wayne Taylor's car back at the beginning of the WSC GP era, way many moons ago. So everything coming full circle there. And young Graham Doyle made his pro debut last season also in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. He was rather bizarrely in the LB Cup class as a 17-year-old, which is a bit weird. But he done very little racing. He does some club racing, does some Mazda racing. But he won, unsurprisingly, the LB Cup category last year in Super Trofeo, and this year already now, just a year later, set to make his debut in a Rolex 24 at Daytona. So a big year it has been for young Graham Doyle from Clearwater, Florida. He bought his birthday. He'll be 18 in March. So there's three 17-year-olds in this race. The other two being Connor Zilic, who was born in. He'll be 18 in July, and Seth Lucas has actually just turned 18. So just two 17-year-olds, Connor Zilic and Graham Doyle.
Colin Brown is at the wheel of the CrowdStrike 04 car, and that car is quickest in class with a 39.1. That car is no slouch. Colin let by the number 5 Eliseo Picariello Proton Competition Mustang sampling. My line doesn't confirm. It's not a Proton Competition Mustang, it's Proton Competition Mustang sampling.
We're going to trip over that at the night, aren't we?
However, through the Le Mans chicane and out on the run into Speedway Turn 4, the P2 lost nothing at all.
Well, Malte Jakobsen, who's been doing very much a lot of the heavy lifting, done a lot of running in that car, and he has been the fastest driver in that car throughout every single one of the Roar sessions, and likewise here in practice too. So Malte Jakobsen has really been putting some big mileage in that LMP2 machine for CrowdStrike Racing with APR, or by APR, excuse me.
Cadillac Racing, Sebastian Bourdais in the gold fronted Cadillac, which is being chased down there for a moment by Marcus Ericsson in the black and blue Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport. But WTR car into the pit lane. He's behind the wheel of the 31. That's Tom Blomqvist, fastest car of the night. And he's got a bit of space in front of him, actually. He comes down to the line now under our feet, heads down towards turn 1. That was a 1:36.7 for him. Ahead of him, he has the 22 of United Autosports with Bijoy Garg behind the wheel. United Autosports USA, I should say. Also Stephen Thomas in the TDS racing car. And sandwiched between them is a GTD Pro car, which I can't see at the moment. It is... we'll catch up with that later, because going behind the wall is the Pfaff McLaren.
We're going to empty it of fuel again and then push it back round again. Do it again, guys.
I think that might be end of the night for them. Shea's down in the pit lane. We'll grab a word with her in a moment.
Just looking to see where the lone Ligier LMP2 car is in the field. 8th fastest is the answer. Joao Barbosa, I think, has just left the pit lane in car number 33, the Sean Creech Motorsports Ligier JSP 217. It's been a while, 2 or 3 years, since anybody has driven a Ligier P2 car anywhere in a serious championship. And the team, they're pretty pretty confident. The cars run nice and reliably. They're gaining experience with it, learning what makes that car tick. They made a lot of changes during the Raw weekend, and Johnny Edgar, the youngster from the UK, who's very highly rated, won a race in F3 last season, and he's been a winner all the way up the open wheel ranks. Very talented young man, I think, and he's set the 8th fastest time during this session. This is his other than on Friday night or whenever it was last weekend, the first time he's driven at night.
Anthony Florio has tweeted at IMSA Radio with a fantastic image of the Konica Danker Riley and Scott, the Doyle Ultimobile Riley and Scott Mark III, winning in 1996 here at the Rolex 24.
Sure, they had the Danker livery on the Ferrari 333 as well.
Yeah, they did.
Great car.
Konica Danker, Konica Minolta, Dex Imaging. Are you seeing some kind of progression here?
Yep.
And the Dex Imaging CEO is Dan Doyle, the Lambo driver being Graham Doyle.
Correct.
So that's how it all strings together.
Yeah, because Danker was sold to Konica Minolta. Danker bought out Kodak's analog copying rights, effectively, but just around about the time everything was going digital, and it probably wasn't the best of moves in terms of business. But eventually that can be taken over by Konica Minolta. But interesting ties through the years.
Down here with another driver who's just gotten out of his race car, Maxime Martin. You've done this race so many times before in GT. How much better is it to be in the top class and just pass everything?
Yeah, it's definitely a big step. The biggest thing is that you don't have to look in the mirror so much. You're passing the car, so it's very interesting. It's definitely, the GTP is now very competitive. It's a brand new car from last year. A lot of systems and things, but very excited.
You're now in the 25 BMW, sharing with Connor DeFilippi and Nick Yellowly. They got more podiums than anyone else did in that class last year. Are you feeling that the trend can continue into this year?
I mean, it's definitely the goal. They've been winning one race, 5 podiums, so we just have to try to win more races, try to win the big ones, and see from there. But like I say, competition is very hard, but we have a good package. Team is doing a good job. BMW car is looking fast at the moment, so let's see.
How different is the data from last year? Because you guys have almost a completely different BOP to where we were 12 months ago.
Yeah, it's completely different. For sure, last year was a difficult year because it was the first year of all cars, but also all the project was quite late and everything was not easy. We are definitely a lot more settled. Everything is way more prepared. So, BOP is different, so we are definitely closer, and so I think it can be a nice battles.
Fingers crossed. Good luck.
Thank you.
That's Maxime Martin at the number 25 BMW M Team RLL.
Max is another great character. Watched his career down through the years. It's nothing but 100% from that driver, Peter. And very versatile.
Very strong. Very, very strong. Had a huge amount of success with the Aston Martin factory. Just plug and play top driver. Great to see him getting a prototype opportunity. Several drivers, you can say that, and that's what this GTP. And again, coming back to our pathway point, I mean, we're talking about very experienced drivers here, and yet there's a lot of them who have had to wait for that opportunity to go to a prototype. So, and that's what this new burst of activity in GTP and indeed Le Mans Hypercar that's opened up those opportunities.
GTP, Grand Touring Prototype. It's an old name for the top class. Whoop, bit of a spin for the 55. It's the light blue Mustang, which is a very pretty livery indeed, and that's at the
Gianmarco Liberato.
And that's at the, I'm pleased you said that, at the International Horseshoe. We've got the works cars as well here, and those are the TF cars. That's the it has been a long day, hasn't it? Did he get a little help there?
No, he didn't. He just got in a little bit deep on the brakes and couldn't quite get it slowed down in time. He had Larry Tinvorda behind him in the 86 MDK Porsche, and Larry did well actually to avoid him. Larry, funnily enough, had just set his best lap of the session, that car's best lap, a 147 flat, to be the fastest Porsche. I told you he was quick.
Yeah, you did. Proton was the team that I was stumbling for. Apologise to Christian Reid. Still just sort of getting used to Proton running other manufacturers, but that is a very Proton livery, and Christian's always like double numbers as well.
Yes, and a lot of the colour scheme comes from Ryan Hardwick's affiliation with First Form. The car that won the GTD category, the Porsche with Wright Motorsports 2 years ago, in 2022, had a very similar colour scheme. And Ryan stayed, although he switched manufacturer, he stayed very loyal to the Proton team. He really likes working with them.
Mustang and Corvette, the newest of the GT3s. You and I had a good crawl over the Ferrari 296 at the Nürburgring last year, which was then the new kid on the block, and we remarked on how much that had taken the category forward. Now it is a balance of performance category, but even so, you look at the new Mustang in particular and what's going on around the front of that car with an engine underneath it, let's not forget. And that's another step forward, isn't it, Peter?
From what I understand, Multimatic have been inundated with demand for the car. So they can make one at full capacity, one every couple of weeks. So I think it's going to be a car that as soon as drivers try it, from everything we've heard so far, it seems to be a very friendly car to drive, and that's really important. Yeah. So, and so different to what Multimatic developed with the Ford GT, which is a pure pro car for pro regulations with confidential tyres. And if you get the chance, go back and look in our catch it on the podcast. Yesterday's Midweek Motorsport caught up with Dirk Muller for about 10 minutes, and he shared a lot about the development process with the car, what's gone into it, and how it was different to developing this car over the Ford GT. But they've had it on track for over a year.
Yeah.
So it should be ready to go.
Well, it seems as though faff are making a liar of both Peter and me, because they're coming back out for the last 14 minutes of the session, and there's still people on their pit stand. I was starting to make a point about GTP. GTP Grand Touring Prototype, an old name, a classic heritage name from IMSA's past for the top class of motor racing. However, I think it's probably as relevant, if not more relevant now than it ever was, because the new top class, the idea is that they have styling cues from the manufacturers. And you were talking there about drivers getting second leases. Where have those drivers come from? They've come from GTE, GT Le Mans. And every driver that I've spoken to have said that driving a GTP is like driving a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier perhaps, a little bit more powerful GT Le Mans car. They have the same sort of dynamic qualities, the way they move around. It's a big car, and it's a heavy car for a prototype. No anti-lock brakes. Yes, they have traction control, but not quite as sophisticated as it would have been in the GT Le Mans days. These are a car that take a bit of driving, and the GT drivers have taken to them, Peter, like a duck to water.
Very, very much so. And a lot of those drivers really went out and tried to get themselves as many opportunities in the prototypes off their own back. We saw that before, kind of leading up to this era, and some had to work quite hard to be able to get themselves into those positions, and they'll reap the rewards for that, it must be said.
Shea Adam, CrowdStrike pit reporter, what do you have?
Thank you very much to Gar Robinson for the intel. It looks like Josh Burden had run something over in the number 74 Riley LMP2 machine because both of the right side tires had gone flat. So that's why he stopped out on the track. Didn't want to drive it back, do any damage to the floor or anything like that. But that's also why they were able to get the car back out so quickly.
Thank you, Shea.
Heads up stuff.
Yeah, and sometimes that in the longer race, get the car back, particularly if there's a yellow, get the car back, get it fixed, get it back out there. That car running nicely at the moment, just going round the outside of the AWA Corvette number 13.
They've got a very strong driver lineup. Felipe Fraga is just one of the most fantastic drivers. Not necessarily a household name. Those in the sports car racing world really do know him now, but he's really fast. Felipe Massa has really impressed me how quickly he's picked up this LMP2 car and picked up going through the traffic and all those sorts of things. And Gar Robinson, very strong silver graded driver. Josh Burton likewise. So no matter who's in the car at any given point of the race, that 74 Ranch Resort car is going to be motoring along at a good pace.
At IMSA Radio, thank you for the pictures coming in. Just some news coming in from Anthony, thank you. Directing me to a sportscar365.com article. Ford Multimatic ramping up production of GT3s. Original plan to build 2 Mustangs a month, so around about 25 to 30 cars in 2 Mustangs a month, that was. So one every 2 weeks, as Peter said. 30 cars in the first couple of years. Now looking like 40 to 45 cars.
Wow.
Where are they all going to go?
Watch this
think
space,
of the
Jeremy.
spares you've got to make.
Well,
just think of that.
That's the other thing. You've got to be able to support them.
50 cars worth of spares. That's a massive production.
But
wow,
look at all the places you can race GT3 around the world.
Yeah,
true.
So you've got 4 here at the moment. You've got 2 more in the World Endurance Championship. We haven't seen any customers in ELMS or in any of the SRO series. As of next year, it'll be eligible for the Bathurst 12 hours. So, Intercontinental GT, Nürburgring.
Yeah.
How about this? Just something to look forward to. It won't happen this year. I'm relatively certain it won't happen this year. But watch for the end of this year, once the Nürburgring gets its long-distance races running. How about Ford versus Corvette for the Nürburgring 24? Because that's coming.
It's not out with the realms of possibility, definitely. Yeah, well, we're fairly... The noises are good about Corvette. But
hang on a second. My phone is ringing. Johnny O'Connell's on the line.
Yes.
Johnny O'Connell, now a bronze driver who has his Nürburgring permit. He got his permit, and he raced in a Renault Clio when you could still race in a Clio a few years ago, and had the time of his life. And he will be banging on the door of Pratt Miller.
We've got a pretty good bronze-graded driver next door in race control, and certain David Donoghue, winner of this race in 2009.
We were talking about bronze drivers that manufacturers could call on.
Max Angelelli,
Dindo Capello, Guy Smith.
Guy's not a bronze, is he? No.
Is he still a silver?
At least, if not gold.
Well, Dindo's definitely a bronze now. Martin Brundle.
Is he bronze?
Yep, through his age.
Goodness.
Yeah, I know. No wonder I can't get any tries. It's a bronze.
Just an improvement there from McCollum De Filippi in car number 25.
Excellent.
Goes up into 3rd position in the now fastest of the BMWs. Just nips ahead of the number 24 car. At the time was set much earlier by Philip Eng. 136.320 then for Conor De Filippi. Behind only the number 31 Cadillac, time set very early by Pipo Derani, 135.708, and Felipe Nasser in the number 7 Penske Porsche 963, 136.018. So pretty equally matched, the space I should say, those top 3 cars, and the 2 BMWs separated by, well, next to nothing, just 1/100th of a second, 0.012.
So your suggestions for all-star teams for the following manufacturers, with at least one or two, at least one bronze driver. Hang on a second, we just had a little incident. Another car hitting the curb. Too
Corvette.
hard coming in. This is the number 3 Corvette. Second place in GTT Pro for Daniel Hunketeer in the Corvette Racing by Pratt Miller machine. Nicky Katzberg is quickest in GTT Pro. Those two ahead of the Iron Lynx Lamborghini Huracan, which has Matteo Cairoli at the wheel. Nürburgring 24, all-star teams 4. This is pure fantasy because I want Bentley to come back. Aston Martin, Ford and Corvette. So all the big manufacturers. That was a horrible moment for Danny Hunketeer.
It was, isn't it?
Just too much curb on the way in is what unsettled that.
Yep.
He was trying to touring car the curb a little bit too much.
Yeah, maybe you can do that in the Mercedes. Apparently not in the Corvette.
We're talking a game of inches, though, Jeremy, aren't we? He wasn't that far offline there. Comes through next time around, hits the curb, what looks to be just as hard, but either at a slightly different angle or not quite as far over with his left-hand side Michelin tyres. All-star teams, then, at IMSA Radio. At least one bronze driver, one special bronze driver. So, veteran or historically associated with the brand. So, somebody like Dindo Capello for Audi. Martin Brundle's driven for Aston, of course. You should have Martin, Alex, and Peter Kate would be my Aston team. That'd be pretty.
I would go David Donoghue. Would be my bronze. So I've got to have a bronze and then a silver?
Well, you've got to have at least a bronze.
Okay.
But all-star, sort of old school, maybe. David? Who else could... Yeah, you can have 3 bronzes if you want. I'll start a new class for it.
Max Angelelli.
And Johnny
O'Connell. Yeah.
In a Corvette.
Yeah.
Wow, excellent.
And Jeremy Shaw for the long races. In fact, you're probably still a silver, Jeremy, aren't you?
Yeah, right.
The joy of me starting racing so late is I can't ever be anything other than bronze.
Quite comfortable with bronze, no problems there.
Is there something underneath bronze? That would be me. Solder.
Actually, Dindo Capello has not got a grading, actually.
Has he not?
Sure. Loris Caparossi, MotoGP rider, does.
What's
bronze.
Right. What's Bill Aublin then?
Gold.
Is he?
Yeah.
Right. I think he's silver. I think he was downgraded.
He's definitely not. I checked it before we left. Because it's a bizarre scenario to not have Bill here. You just think he's part of the furniture at any IMSA race.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, we miss him being part of the circus here.
Still
a long time.
Gold. Okay. Who else did I... Oh, Stefan Johansson's a bronze now.
That's a very good shout.
Noticed he'd got his bronze. Johnny Morlam's a silver now.
Is he really?
Yes.
So he is, yes. Goodness. Yeah, that's
great.
great.
For Phil Hansen, number 85, JDC Miller Motorsports Porsche, 7th fastest for the banana boat, the yellow car. It's confusing to see a customer Porsche 963 running number 5, which was the case for JDC last year. This year it's the Proton team, and JDC taking its yellow livery back to number 85 car, which it used to be a few years ago. So there's so many confusing little switches amongst the drivers and teams and what have you compared to last year.
And Mustang sampling, which used to be an Action Express car.
Yeah, exactly.
And the 5, number 5, so the 6 and the 7, which we see on the 2 Porsche Penske Motorsport cars, those are 2 classic Penske numbers, have been for many, many, many years. But when Penske and Porsche last ran a prototype together, the RS Spider, it was the 6 car and the 7 car, but then they brought in a 3rd car for the last 2 races of the programme, an extra one to try and win the championship, and that was the number 5.
And it's 5 and 6 in the WEC. Not 6 and 7.
Not 6 and 7.
Well, it was last year.
Okay.
I haven't seen the entry list yet. It's for... And the 6 was always the one that had the white stripes, so that was common across the 2 championships. And the 5 had the black stripes, and the 7 had the black stripes. And then, of course, there was the rainbow stripes for the 75th anniversary at Le Mans, which were all the different colours of the art cars and the special cars. So there's a bit of Pink Pig in there,
bit of Martini,
yeah, etc., etc. Bit of funky green from the Martini hippie car. That's Eve's favourite. Hippie car.
That car is quite funny. The hippie car was, when it raced, it was purple with green swooshes, but actually in practice it was purple with white swooshes.
Correct.
And Hans-Dieter Dechant, the team manager of German racing team as it was, but they were branded then as Martini. He thought, that's just not wild enough, and got the green spray cans out
and there
to
was,
fill in the white bits.
And although that was a Martini entered car,
Count Rossi was
Count
not a
Rossi
fan.
was
not
a fan, and there were no Martini stickers on that car.
There was one about the size of
there?
your mobile phone, on the flanks of it. Yeah. Whereas the Pink Pig,
right, it was the Pink
which
Pig.
was also a Martini car.
Yes.
He refused. Point blank. Yeah.
But the cut lines and the names, the cut lines were on, but the names weren't added till race day morning on that car.
Overnight special.
Yeah. Baker. Classic. Never won, of course, but it did when it was a GT car.
It did. Kevin, Lawrence and Michael put that right.
Lawrence has everything Pink Pig you could ever think
Even
of.
a bicycle.
He has a bicycle in Pink Pig colours. Absolutely right. 16 seconds to go.
Questionable taste, I would suggest, but each one
Each to their own, Jeremy.
He does a lot of cycling, does Lawrence Van Teur.
The cycling or the Pink Pig colours? Or both? Yeah.
Combination.
For the record, Mr. Shaw is nodding.
You want to be seen on the bike.
Well, so picture this. Lawrence Van Teur on a Pink Pig coloured bike in Pink Pig lycra on his top, because he's got the top to go with. Checkered flag is out.
We know the Tim Fulbrook of Only Endurance actually has told us why they can't have the 7 Team Penske. This is a Penske Porsche Motorsport, because Toyota have already got it. Because they've
Yes, of course.
Yes.
In WEC.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're 7 and 8. Correct. 7, the most. I think 7 is still the most successful number at Le Mans. I have to check that up. It was a few years ago, but a lot of that goes back to when the cars were numbered. Number 1 was the car with the biggest engine, and they were lined up with the biggest engine.
Bentley Old number 7 too.
Bentley Old number 7, absolutely. So the checkered flag is out, Jeremy, and we have a decent spread of times, just on a second for the GTP team, just over a second for the GTP field, should I say?
An improvement on that last lap by Sebastian Bourdais, up into 4th place, just ahead of Conor De Filippi, who jumped into that position not too long ago. So fastest on the evening is the number 31 Cadillac. The time was set by Pipo Derani at 1:35.708. Second fastest Felipe Nasser, number 7 Penske Porsche, 1:36.0. 1:36.1 for Sebastian Bourdais, number 01. Second of the Cadillacs. Then the 2 BMWs in 4th and 5th. Conor De Filippi in number 25, 1:36.320. Teammate Philippe Eng, 1:36.332. And then in 6th position is Colton Herter. There's another switch for you. He's been driving BMWs for the last several years. This year, of course, switching across to the Acura team of WTR with Andretti. His 6th quickest in this session at a 1:36.5.
Let's head down to Shea Adam before we sign off for the evening. Down at the middle of the pit lane by the Rolex gate.
Down here in AO World, and I want to check in really quickly with PJ Hyatt, because PJ, we talked during the Roar. We didn't really know what kind of experience it was going to be in the P2 car. How different is it from the cold weather of the Roar to now the warmth of, race week?
Yeah, I think the car's sliding around a little bit more because of the track temps and just the hotter temperatures in general. But, I mean, the cars are still fast this weekend. It's just a learning process, figuring out how to get the setup right for the different track temp. But yeah, it was nice and cool last weekend. Not so much now.
How's the P2 car at night compared to the GT?
That's a great question. I think the P2 car in general is just far different of a driving experience than the GT car. One that I've been really enjoying. So, hot or cold, it's fun.
Good luck in these warmer conditions.
Thank you.
Shea Adam down in the pit lane with the AO team. PJ Hyatt down there, and that brings to an end a very long but busy and interesting Thursday here at Daytona International Speedway. I'll run through the top times in the other classes for you. CrowdStrike by APR were quickest in LMP2 ahead of the number 2 United Autosports and the 18 Era Motorsports car. They were your top 3, separated by just on 0.4 of a second. In GTD, the pros came to the fore tonight. They decided to wake up and come and play. And the top 4 GTs were all GTD pros. Corvette Racing by Pratt Miller, 4 from 3, notwithstanding the issues that the 3 had earlier on. They bounced back this evening. They were separated in true Corvette style by under 1/10 of a second. And then it was another 1/10 back to the Lamborghini Huracan of Iron Lynx. Half a 1/10 to the Mustang of Ford Multipack. I should say this is the 60 Iron Lynx Lamborghini. The 64 Ford Multimatic Mustang. And then the best of the GTDs, MDK Motorsport, 5th best of the GTs overall, and first in GTD for the number 86 of MDK, Wayne Taylor Lamborghini, with Graham Doyle finishing that car stint in second, and Chetilar Racing in third. And again, half a 1/10, a quarter of a 1/10, and just on a 1/10, the gap there between the cars. So plenty to talk about, plenty to think about. And when we come back tomorrow, we've got 2 races and a bit more practice as well with Mazda, the Whelen Mazda Championship, and also, with, of course, with the Michelin Pilot 4-hour BMW M Endurance race. Shea Adam has been doing sterling work down in the pit lane for us as our CrowdStrike WeatherTech Sports Car Championship pit lane reporter in the last session. It was Jeremy Shaw and Peter Mackay alongside me, John Hindhaugh. Kerry Cobb and Tim Gray back up in London. And thanks to our production team up in Concord, North Carolina as well, Alyssa, who did all of the hard work for us for the pictures on Mazda. And, of course, the responsible adult, along with Christine and the rest of our MP team on site here as well, who made sure we could talk to you and the world. Take it easy as you go home. Have a splendid Thursday night and set yourself up for Friday, where we have a Fast Friday. 2 races from Daytona International Speedway, and they're all live on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. Good night.
Thanks very much, John. Stellar work over there as well. Thanks to IMSA Radio for all your hard work today. So, there we are. Here in the UK, it's Friday. It's 1:11 a.m. You know where to be. In a couple of hours' time, you can join us for the second practice session for the ABB-FIA Formula E World Championship, as well as then qualifying and race 1. That's on Friday, as well as the final practice session for the Daytona 24 Hours. Saturday, you can join us again, practice 3, qualifying 2, and race 2 from Diriyah before we kick off the 24 hours of coverage here on JB Motorsports. Thanks for your company. Good night to you all.